So let's write a really short application to just compile using the command line. Okay, so you know how to do that. All right, so if you want to go to your desktop or anywhere in your drive, your C drive, somewhere that you can easily go to. C drive is good because once we go into the command line, you want to be able to navigate or go to that drive. So we could do something like that. Let's see how easy it is to go in there. So if I go into my command Cmd Prompt, and I'm inside my default folder, so that is, I think, it's in my the command Cmd. So yeah, just go to the window or here, type in Cmd for command, and then just you should see that cmd.exe, and just hit enter to run it. Okay. So from here, I think it's easier if you would just go into wherever you're located. So I'm thinking if we go to the C drive, let's see, if you go to C drive, you just basically put CD and then put the space backslash that take you to the root directory of your computer. So C drive, I have these files. So maybe that's easier to go there. So what that means is that I'm going to go into the C drive. It's just easier to access. If it's not, I'll show you too. It's not a big deal. It doesn't matter where. Okay, so let's maybe where desktop. Easy, right? So let's go to desktop. Desktop, create a folder. Just right-click, create a new folder, and we'll just call this like Java 1. Okay. So, and then in the folder, open it, and let's create a file. If you're using your machine, you may have, it should be good, but if you're using these machines here, it may have some problem because the file type may not, or the file extension may not be visible. So, why don't we like create you have No Plus, right? I mean Notepad, right? Or do you have Notepad plus plus or just Notepad? Either one is fine. If you want to open a Notepad, if you have Notepad or a Notepad plus plus, that's even better. But for example, I have Notepad plus plus. And then let me close all of these, for example. Close all. If you don't have Notepad++, you can use Notepad, it's okay too. It's just a text editor. Let me close this for now. Just a simple text editor. You can put some text in there. So that's Notepad++. Let's see, Notepad. It will look just like this, right? Either way, it's fine. So I can use Notepad, it's fine. And so in Notepad, we're going to write this program. So in Java, you'll see that you always start with Java program that looks like this. Okay. You know what? Let me go to the other one because I can zoom in, zoom out. But it's the same thing. Okay. So the first thing you should have for your Java is you always have a class. Okay, so always be a public class. So we're public and then class. Okay, this is very standard. So every Java program starts with one of these. And then the class, after that you give it a name. So it's just the variable name of that class, what that is. So in our example, I'm just going to say hello Java. Okay, so you put hello, capital H. And usually for a name of the class, you follow this convention, this Pascal case naming convention, uppercase for first character of every word, and then you put the curly brace, and then you just close that curly brace somewhere down here. Just make sure you have that matched. So the curly brace just tells you that the beginning, the end of that block of code. Okay. So we have the public. This is the accessor. We'll talk about this later on. The word class. Okay, it tells Java that this next here is the name of this class. It's called Hello Java. And we'll talk. If you look at the notes for lecture 1, you'll see that a class, if you think about objects, right? It belongs to a class. Like we're all objects, we're all humans, right? You belong to a human class. You have like computers belong to machines class, or whatever it is. But you have a classification of certain objects. That's why Java it's a full-fledged object-oriented programming language. Everything belongs to a class. You cannot just start Java without a class. Okay, so you force everything to be a class. So in that class called Java, and again this name here has to be the same name, the same spelling, same case when you name this file. So right now I might just new one. I haven't saved it yet. So if I want to save this file, when I save this, I do Control Save or Control S to save this. I want to save it into that folder in the desktop. So I'm going to go into the desktop and then find the Java 1 folder I created just a while ago. And in there, I'm going to save this as a Java file. Okay, so we'll call it Hello Java, the same name as your class. It has to be the same, otherwise it won't work. And then if you have the drop down, like if you're using the Notepad++, you have a drop down for a type of file, and you want to choose the Java source file. If you don't have that option, if it's a Notepad, then you just put hello java.java as the extension. Okay, make sure it's not .text or something. It has to be .java file. So I'll save that file. And so as soon as I do that, Notepad++ recognizes that this is a Java file, so it changes the color of the IDE here. Kind of help me out that anything in purple are keywords. Okay. So you have a class. So inside the class you have a main function called main. Okay, we call those method in Java. But it's the same thing. It is a function. It also uses the public modifier, and then the word static. Again, we'll talk about this later on. Don't worry what this means. Static means you can access this function anywhere in your program. Okay, it has to be static. It has to be available everywhere. Otherwise, you can't reach it. And then we have the return type. We're not returning anything. Literally, we're not returning anything. So we'll put the word void there. So if you know function, usually function returns some type of data, either return an integer, a string, or some other objects. In this case, we're not returning anything. We're just going to go run this method here. And then the name of this function is called method in lowercase. Okay? No, I'm sorry. My bad. It's main. Okay? It's the main method. So every program in Java, when I say a program, means that your complete application must have one method called main to start. This is the entry point to your program. And this main method here, so function, right, looks like that, right? And then inside the paren here, it takes one argument of string type. So string is the capital S for string in Java. And it's an array, so you put that square brackets next to it. So string. And then the parameter there, it could be anything. Okay? It could be just X, Y, Z, A, B, C, doesn't really matter. But again, by convention, you see that they always use the word args for arguments. Okay, so this is the main method, and then go ahead and then you want to close that method with that curly brace as well. So see, a function is nested inside the class. Okay, and then as you build on, you're going to have a lot of functions inside here. So again, the accessor, the modifier, followed by the static, meaning either this is a static or non-static. We'll talk about this later. It just means that it can be accessed anywhere. And then followed by the data type returns. Okay, if you remember Visual Basic, return. Well, Visual Basic, you split that into a procedure in a function, right? So in the sub procedure, you don't return anything here at all. But in the function, you have to return a data type. Okay, in Java, you combine both together in a single statement here. If you're returning something, then you don't put void. If I want this function to return of an integer, I put that int there. So that's a return type. If I don't return anything, then it becomes a subroutine, right? So I put void there. So you have to put void, okay? So I'm sorry? Did I make a mistake somewhere?
I don't know. That's what I meant.
No, wait. This matches that, so that matches that. It's over here.
The close and close both of them without having to be another open?
Oh no, you have to match. You have to match it.
It's right now you have 2 open braces and 1 closed.
Yeah, I put a. Yeah, it's over here. Yeah, this is over here. And then this one here is for this main method. It's confusing, right? If you do that. Okay. So yeah, they have to match, right? So this open here is closed down here.
Oh.
Yeah, it's on this side of the screen. Sorry, you can't see it. Okay, so in the main method, then this is where all the actions takes place. This is where your program starts. And for now, we're just going to write a really simple statement to print to the console. Okay, so Java in this case, the first couple of chapters you'll be writing, or most of this course, you'll be outputting data to the console only. Of course, we're not going to do the GUI, but I think the author does put a few chapters, a few examples in there. We actually output the data to a GUI interface, a window interface, but that's not required. So to output data to the console, you always use this method called system with a capital S dot out. Okay, system dot out, and then dot print. Okay, so that's a function, and you always terminate every statement with a semicolon in Java. Okay, just like C and C++ and most languages do, except JavaScript. Right. And then inside this print function, we're going to put a message. Just say this string here. So on a string, you put inside a pair of double quotation marks or a double single quote. Either one is fine. Okay. Well, no, not a single quote. The single quote is for a character. Okay, I'm take it back. So if it's a string, it has to be a double quote. If it's a character, type is a single quote. Okay, so I put here to say hello Java. Put a banger. So that's a string. We're going to output the message to say hello Java to the console. And the print here, you also have another option called print line, which is just take the ln. Okay, so and then it just means that when you run this statement here, when you enter this to the console, if it doesn't have an ln, I mean your cursor stops right here, what is flashing right now. And if you have another statement to print out, it will continue to print from there on, right? So that's called print. If you want to force a carriage return after you print the statement, then you put the ln here. Okay, once you do that, then once it's done printing the first statement, it's going to force a carriage return and going to move the cursor to the next line. That's the difference between the two. Okay, so for now it doesn't matter which one you use. I'll keep it as the println and print before. Okay, so you see a lot of these dot notations here. If you never used this before, well, you get to use it now. These dot notations are very, very common in all object-oriented languages. Okay, so this dot means you're going from the most inner part of a class going outside. Okay, so here I'm calling a function called print. This function here belongs to a class called out. Okay, and then inside the out class we have another belongs to another class called system. So you have three, like a couple layers down here, and you see this is very, very, very common. So later on when we write a couple classes, you can also use the dot notation. But for now, just know that each dot represents a class. Okay, so let's save this. All right, so now we're going to go to the command line, and we're going to execute this command, this file from the command line. Okay, I'm not sure if I can maximize this, but let me just go and then clear this. You can clear it by just typing CLS to clear your screen. If you're using DOS, using a different machine might be different, but DOS is that. Okay, so we want to go into the desktop. And if you don't know how to get there from here, it can be a little bit tricky. If you know you're around, that's great. If you don't, I'll show you the shortcut way. It's very simple. You go into your desktop folder, okay? And then wherever your folder is, open that folder up, and then on the URL here, just click that and then select this whole URL. Okay, just copy the whole link here. Okay, and then go into back to the command here. And we're just going to type the word cd for change directory, followed by space. And then we'll just paste that command in there. You paste it by just right-click on your mouse. Right-click on it, and then paste. So this is where you have to go to get there. And then you just hit enter, and now we're in that directory. Okay? So, and if you want to see what's in there, you type in dir for directory. Or I think ls will also have a list too. It will show you what that directory is called, how many files you have in there, how many bytes they have, just like Linux, and then and so on. So you have two directories. One is the current directory. The one dot means the current directory. The two dots means a directory up above this, right? Will be the desktop, and then a go forth. And I have a file called hello.java. That's my file. It has only one file. It tells you right here, one file and two directories. And this file has 125 bytes. Okay? So we're going to compile this file to what's called a bytecode. It's a binary type of code in Java. So in order for Java to run your code, it needs to be converted or compiled to an executable code called bytecode. Okay? And once you have the bytecode, then the file will have the same name, except we have the extension of .class. Okay? And then you will run that class file, and then that compile will run on the JVM. We'll talk about that next week as well. It's a virtual machine, and that machine will convert to binary, and then it will execute the code. Okay? So it takes a few steps there. So let's go ahead and compile this. Now to compile, you need to call this command called javac or javac. Okay, javac is compiler, and then usually we put javac and then followed by the space and then the name of the file. Again, will be the exactly same spelling. And the Windows machine, you know, not a big deal. When you write it, when you call it, you can use lowercase, uppercase. It doesn't matter when you run it. But if you want to run this on a Mac or a Linux machine, you have to really care about the space in the case. So I'm just following the convention, just put hello java.java. Okay, we're going to compile this file. Okay, and then if you hit enter, then if you get this error, because it says javac is not recognized. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to tell the OS where this javac.exe is located, right? Just like Java. Okay, so we need to change the path. We need to change what's called a local environment variable, and then we need to find that file. So go back to your desktop, and any one of these is fine. Just open one of those files, and we're going to go into the C drive. Okay, navigate to the C drive. In your C drive, you should have the program files folder. Open that folder, and you should find the Java folder. And there you should have, if you install the JDK. Okay, if you don't have JDK, you need to install it. Otherwise, you cannot compile code. Right? Remember, we need the JDK to build applications. And you can see both the JDK and JRE here. You might have a couple versions in here. So I have two versions of the JDK. 1.8.0 underscore 4 and underscore 101. These are just different releases. So I'm gonna get the JAVAC, it's inside the JDK. Because the compiler is inside the JDK, the run your application is in the JRE. Okay, so in the JDK folder, if you open that, any one, just the latest one, the one that has a larger number. Okay, you go in there, and then inside the bin folder or the binary folder, open that, and you will see that there's the JAVAC here, right? We need to run that file. We need to access this folder. So again, once you open this bin folder, just go to the top here and select that link here and copy that directory. Okay, so just Control-C, highlight it, and Control-C, copy it. And then we're going to map that into the environment, so you don't have to call, you can call that from anywhere on your machine. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you have to go into this place and then run this file from here, and then when you run it, it gets complicated too. So let's go back to the command line here. We're going to set a variable. So we're going to say set, followed by, let me type in uppercase, you can see better. It doesn't matter, uppercase or lowercase. Just say set space path equal, okay, and then again just paste that back in here. Right click and then paste. So you should have the link to that JDK directory /bin folder.
You don't have to put it in quotes.
Yeah, you don't have to put in quotes. Yeah. And then just hit enter, and hopefully nothing goes wrong. Right? So, yeah, I can't show everything here, but so once you have that there, then now the JAVAC command is available everywhere globally. And okay, so once you get that done, and then you can go and then run that javac hello Java again. Now, once you are still active in this window here, any command you type in the past is still accessible from your keyboard here. So in other words, if you want to go back to the line up here, type javac hello.java. If I don't want to type it, if I get lazy, right? You can always go back by pressing the up and down arrow key. So if I press the up arrow key, it will give me my previous commands. Okay? So sometimes it's very helpful. So I just go up and down until I find that one I want, and then I can press enter. And then once you enter, now it executes and compiles your code. So now, if you don't have any errors, right, which is a good sign, if you type in the word dir again to see what's in there, you see that we have another file called hello.java.class. Now that file has about 400 bytes. It's about like 3 times the size of that, because now it's converted to binary, to a byte code. In addition to our code, it adds its own code to it to make it readable by the Java virtual machine. Okay, so that is a byte code file that Java compiles that needs to be run. So when you run that file, you will type in the word, use the command Java without the C. Okay, Java C is to compile your source code. After that, to run your class, just type the word Java space and then the name of the file without the extension, just hello Java. It will know that it's expecting a class file. And then if I move this a little bit up here. Okay, so if you hit enter, you should see the message says hello Java here with a bang, right? You see that? Anybody got any error? If you have an error or something, you have a typo somewhere, it will tell you, oh, you mistyped that or something. So that's how you run a Java program in the command line. And this is a really simple one, but it can get complicated depending on how complex your program is. Okay, so every time you make a new change, if you want to go back and change your code, you have to go through this whole process of compiling and then run it again and again. So if you want to go back and change, you know what, I want to say hello Java 1, I want to say that, then okay, well, you have to go back to your source code, go back in here, hello Java 1, okay, and then let's just say that I accidentally put a mistake. I forgot to put, you know, let's say I type prints here instead of that one. I save the file, go back to the command prompt, and again, I don't want to type it, I just go back up to the JavaC here. Okay, compile it, and it tells me some errors. Okay, so it tells me error that, you know, error cannot find the symbol dot here. So these errors may or may not be helpful. Sometimes it's not helpful. In this case, it's not helpful. Because if you don't know what the print is, it's like, why is that the problem, right? Or if you know that because print is not a function, then it will tell you that's an error. And if that's an error, then you can't run it until you fix it. Okay, so let's fix that print. And just to show you what that print, so save that, and then go back and do it again. Okay, looks good. Now I have Java, and then hello Java, and then we have that print hello Java 1. Okay, and then just one more line, one thing. I'm going to copy this line and then put right below it. And I'll just change the second text to say learning Java is fun. Okay, just save that. So 2 lines of text. And again, I have to go back and compile again, right? So same thing, go back here and just up 2 times. Okay. Compile. And then I can run that java.hello Java. Okay, so once you compile, you run it, you'll see that it's still on the same line, right? Because of that print. Can you see? I know it's kind of hard to see now, but so look at this. Okay, so because the print only prints, and then the cursor of that, what the line, the end of the line is still flashing, or not flashing, but it's right here after the bang sign, the exclamation mark. So any additional lines of text, it will start right there from there on. So that's why you have this issue here. So to move that line out, I would just say, after the print hello, I put the line feed there. And then the second doesn't really matter, but we can put both in here as well. So print out, print line. Yes. After the print statement, it will break it, and it will do a carriage return. Okay, so if I go back here, and then just go and recompile that program again, and then if you run it again, hello Java, and then now you have 2 separate lines. Okay, so that's the difference between those 2 commands. And there are other ways to do it. You can just use print, and then you put a special character /n to force a new line. That's also work too, but we'll talk about those later on. Okay, so that's how you execute a program in the command line. You can see it's very tedious work. It takes a lot of efforts just to run a statement here, and it's not really friendly when you have those kind of errors also to fix it. But that's how it was done back in the old days, when we didn't have all these GUI interface in the 90s. Okay, so any questions before we move on to the IDE? Are you all good? Again, I'm not expecting you to do all this in your program. If you want to do it, that's great. That's fine. It's good practice because depending where you want to do with it, right? If you're a Linux or a programmer, you have to be really good at this. But for now, okay, we're done with this one here. So I'm going to close this. So every time you close this window, this coming window, and if you open a new one again, you have to always reset that path every time. Okay, you just have to do it. There are other ways to make it more permanent, but you may or may not want to do that. So I also have instructions in the Blackboard to show you too. But if you only if you want to do it, if you don't, just this is good now. Okay, so we're done here.